Welcome back to Race Report, everyone. Have you ever wondered where F1 teams are based and have their factories? Well, today we'll be looking at where each one of our current F1 teams for the 2022 season are based, what towns or cities they're located in, and maybe a few details about their factory setups as well. So let's get stuck straight in. We'll start with our current champions, Mercedes, who are based out of the English town of Brackley in Northamptonshire. Brackley is a small town in the countryside with a population of around 13,000, conveniently close to Silverstone. That will definitely be a trend in this list, so watch out for that. Roughly 1,000 people work in the Mercedes factory in Brackley. That's broken down between its race team and its applied sciences division. And as a result, you'll always see a lot of Mercs driving around when visiting Brackley. The factory is state-of-the-art with its own wind tunnel and simulator, as you'd expect from the dominant champions. The factory can trace its roots back all the way to 1999, where they started life as BAR before becoming Honda between 2006 and 2008, and then Braun GP in 2009, and finally onto the team we see them as now. Of course, Mercedes aren't just a constructor, they are also an engine manufacturer, and this is done separately at a factory in Brixworth, also in Northamptonshire. Another sleepy English town, not too far from Brackley. The town is even smaller with a population of just over 5,000, and the factory itself employs 700 people to work on its engines across F1, Formula E, and their hybrid road cars. This site has created every Mercedes F1 engine since 1995, and its roots go back even further, all the way back to 1984 as Ilmor Engineering. To contrast Mercedes, Red Bull Racing have their factory in the city of Milton Keynes, a relatively new city developed in the 1960s in Buckinghamshire, again very close to Silverstone. They employ around 600 people at the Red Bull campus, split between Red Bull Racing and Red Bull Technologies, with the city having a population of 230,000. As you'd expect, Red Bull's factory is also state-of-the-art, with top simulators and wind tunnel. The factory can trace all the way back to 1997, when it was Stewart Grand Prix, before being brought by Ford for Jaguar Racing in 2000, and then eventually onto Red Bull in 2005. You might think that AlphaTauri would also be based out of this factory, of course also being owned by Red Bull. That is not the case, so we'll check in with them a little bit later. Ferrari are the oldest serving team in F1, and from their first championship race in 1950, they spent their entire time at the home in Maranello, Italy. Maranello is as synonymous with Ferrari as Ferrari is with Maranello. It's a small town of 17,000 people, with 4,500 of those being employed by Ferrari. The factory houses its road cars, race cars, and its engine manufacturing. It also houses museums and tracks dedicated to Ferrari, and the facilities at Maranello are top notch, as you'd expect from a team with Ferrari stature. And we're back to being within touching distance of Silverstone, this time with McLaren. They're based at their bespoke McLaren Technology Centre, or MTC as they call it, one of the newer factories on this list, having been opened in 2004. It's located on the outskirts of the English town of Woking in Surrey, which is home to just over 100,000 people, with 1,000 people fitting into the MTC. The factory also houses McLaren's road car production as well as its F1 team. In recent times, the factory has actually been sold by McLaren in order to raise money. They've then leased it back from its new owner, Global Net Lease. Next up we have Alpine, who are quite often referred to by their team location due to their ownership changing so much in recent times. So you've probably already heard them get called the Enstone team from time to time. They're based out of Enstone, of course, rather shockingly, a small English village in the Oxfordshire countryside. Also shockingly, very close to Silverstone. Only 1,000 people live in the village, and it's mostly known for its F1 factory, which started off as Benetton in 1992, before it became Renault in 2000, Lotus in 2009, back to Renault again in 2015, and then over to Alpine for the 2021 season. The facilities there are said to be good, however have been less so in the past when the team has struggled for money. While Renault have a deep connection with Enstone, the Renault engine is not actually developed there, instead being developed in Viry-Châtillon, which I apologise if I butchered that pronunciation there, on the outskirts of Paris, France. This has been the home of Renault's F1 efforts, especially in the engine department, since 1977. Remember when I said we'd come back to AlphaTauri? Well, here we are. They're one of the more interesting entries due to the team having 2 factories. Their main headquarters in Faenza, Italy, while they have a second location in the English town of Bicester. And you guessed it, not far from Silverstone. Faenza was the home of Minardi, and one of the conditions for Red Bull buying the Minardi team was that they had to keep the Faenza factory, a deal Red Bull were very happy to accept. That deal actually ran out in 2007, so the team could move on or open a second location after that point, and that's where Bicester comes in. Faenza is said to be well equipped, dating back to 1985 with Minardi before becoming Toro Rosso in 2006, and then of course AlphaTauri in 2020. I sadly can't find too much info on the facilities at the Bicester factory, but it does mostly seem focused on aerodynamics based on their job vacancies. Aston Martin are another team with a long legacy at their factory. Based at the track in Silverstone, they literally couldn't get any closer to the centre of British motorsport if they tried. If you've ever attended the British Grand Prix, there's a good chance you've walked right past the entrance to the factory itself. The factory dates all the way back to 1991 with Jordan, before going on a bit of a merry-go-round with Midland, Spiker, and then settling for a few years as Force India, before being sold on again as Racing Point, and finally Aston Martin in 2021. The facilities have never been the best over the years, with Force India in particular doing deals to use other teams' equipment and wind tunnels. This is all due to change, however, with the recent investment from Lawrence Stroll intending to turn the fortunes of the team, expanding the team size from 500 to 800, and with plans to build a brand new state-of-the-art factory for the team. Williams are another one of the legacy teams, having been around since 1977. They spent that entire time in 2 different factories, the latest of which is a factory in the English village of Grove, and by now you know where that is near. The Grove facility was purpose-built for Williams and comes with their heritage fleet and museum. However, Williams haven't had the money to keep up in recent years, so the facilities aren't up there with the top teams. They'll be hoping to turn that around with their new owners though. Alfa Romeo are interestingly not based out of Italy as you might expect. It's important to remember that this is actually the Sauber team with the Alfa name attached to it, and as such they're based out of the Sauber factory in Hinwil, Switzerland. Hinwil is a small town with a population of 11,000, and the Sauber factory has been producing F1 cars since they got into the sport in 1993. Their facilities are surprisingly good considering the struggles the team has had in recent years, with a wind tunnel and office building being added in the mid-2000s. Haas are our final entrant and our first with 3 separate locations. They have their headquarters in Kannapolis, North Carolina in the United States, home of the rest of the Haas teams competing in other motorsports as well. They also have a base in the small English town of Banbury. You guessed where that's close to, didn't you? And they also have a presence in Maranello, Italy with Ferrari, with whom they have a close relationship. We've already covered Maranello, so I won't go into any detail with that one. However, Kannapolis is our first US stop, and it's a relatively new city of 42,000 just outside Charlotte. And that factory is mostly focused on their US interests. Their Banbury factory was previously used by Manor and Marussia before them, and is mostly focused on the staging area for their European races. Banbury is a small market town of 47,000, and is actually a surprisingly big motorsport hub due to its proximity to Silverstone, with ProDrive, Arden and Haas all calling it home. So that's it, that's the whole grid. As you can see, there is no one-size-fits-all solution for F1 teams when it comes to factories. However, being near Silverstone definitely seems to be a popular choice, doesn't it? I hope that was enjoyable for everyone. What did you guys think? Any surprising locations on there? Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching that video. I really do appreciate the support. If you want to see more from me, I'm going to put a couple of extra videos on the left-hand side of the screen here for you. Just go ahead and click on one of those. On the right-hand side of the screen, I'm going to put a subscribe button. If you want to support me and support the channel, I very much appreciate it. Thank you.